The blackest eyes. The devil's eyes.
Hail to the king, baby.
Boy! The plan is, kill the brain, and you kill the ghoul.
Welcome to hell.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Welcome to prime time. Ha 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 ha.
Hi, everybody. Your hosts aren't here today, so you've got me, apparently Igor. No, it's Matthew. Hello.
Hello, Matthew.
Oh my God, it's Matthew.
And I'm Matthew. And I'm Matthew's care worker, your host, Wayne Alexander, here at Podcast on the Backseat.
Good day.
Good day.
Too much coffee. Yeah, I made a really thick one. It was like syrup, only sour as hell.
Oh, really? Well, how do you like your coffee? Thick. I'll be honest, there's a couple of videos going around on like Instagram and a couple of other ones where it's like it's almost like a form of animal abuse. Not to say that I'm advocating that. It's just like maybe an overweight dog or just like a really chunky dog, and it's just some redneck guy going, "He's thick as fuck, boy. Look at boy. He's thick.
No, I'm not
Look at it." Oh, it's just so. But that's how I like my coffee.
like a giant dog. Was that on on Instagram? You say what? Where else should we visit on Instagram?
It's out podcast in the backseat. Hashtag immaculate segue.
No, yeah, but this is podcast in the backseat coming in your ears again on a Friday evening as normal. Juicy. He's on the dick vinegars. But yeah, we've got a very, very special episode for you. I say that every week. Every fucking week it's a special episode. Special. Because we've changed up the medium a little bit. This week we were going to discuss I've picked a list of top 5 horror video games of any era. I don't know, have you managed to get, was it 5? Was it top 5 or was it just some jumping off points you say?
I've got 5 in no particular order.
Nice.
But yeah, just ones that I've sort of thought of and are just like video games that just sort of like stick in my mind. Some of them are quite old.
Yeah, it's any
Some of them
era.
are more kind of more new. Yeah, and but yeah, it's just some of the ones that shit me up and probably still would.
So I'll pose the question to yourself, and because I think it might be more effective coming from yourself, because sadly I'm so bloody numb to these things now. What, in your opinion, would make a good horror game, or what? Because there's a lot out there, especially movie tie-in ones that are kind of shit. So what makes it good? What makes it memorable? What would make it stand out to you?
I think you've touched it a valid point. I think it's memorable. It's the one where you just go and like it's. I think it's one of those ones if you happen to mention it to somebody else who's been through something similar, and they just go, "Yeah, that fucking hell, that was like."
It was a ride.
Yeah, and it's a jump. It was a jumping off point and just going fuck it, like yeah, and it's one of those ones where I think it's affecting, and I think. You've also mentioned about people becoming quite numb to these sort of things, but I think there's some ones keep going back even with the graphical limitations. There's certain ones where it'd be like a certain type of music or a certain aspect or an animation within the game that would just go, oh shit. And like if you possibly have to revisit them now, it would seem pretty tame, but at the time, I think my tolerance rate would have been maybe quite low in comparison to now. But yeah, I think sort of ones that it's affecting, that sticks with you. There's a few off the top of my head that I remember distinctly, and then other ones I had to do like a bit of searching online just to sort of refresh your memory. Possibly because I've tried to delete it from my memory because it's just so horrific. Or like, and what I'll put it to you as well is I think to a certain extent some of the older video games are more terrifying because there was no save.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
if you died, you died.
to,
that's a feature that is now included in games. We get like permadeath. Like if you die in the game, that is it. Fuck it. In the words of Bill Paxton, game over, man. Yeah. Game over.
And there's certain. This isn't a horror game, so this isn't a spoiler. It's kind of a horror, I guess. But the more recent Doom games, which are phenomenal, by the way, both of them. I like Doom Eternal. The jumping puzzles were kind of irritating, but there is a feature on that you can play, just like old Doom. Did you ever get to play the old one as well with the Romero ones? Seriously, so much fun. But there's always settings, which is like I'm a Wimp, Hurt Me Plenty, Ultra Violent, which you've got to play it on. But then afterwards was Nightmare mode. And what Nightmare mode in the old ones was, it would just keep popping up random enemies. And if you managed to get through the level somehow, you could actually get over 100% like kills, because you could get over like 1,000% because they were all random and it was constantly going. But in the new one, Nightmare mode means if you die, you start the game again at any point throughout the game, and there's no fucking way I'm gonna do Doom on Nightmare mode, because they've all got like 300% health. You've got 50% health.
You're sitting walking around with basically
a spoon,
and they just got fucking...
They've got rocket launchers on their dick. You've got a spoon with a hole in it. Made of parsley.
Yeah, I know.
God. But yeah, no.
It just seemed, no save. It terrifies me. It's because like you would be creeping around corners. You'd be sitting going.
That's something that I am going to touch on, because there's one game that I'm going to bring up that's one of the main features, and it's a more recent game as well, and I'm kind of glad they do it. But one of the things, because obviously I studied horror. This is at university. It was horror movies more than anything. But it came up quite recently. Did you ever hear of the playable teaser PT? It's referred to the Silent Hills game that never will be, by Hideo Kojima.
Yes, yes, I've seen it. So it's like, is it not basically the same corridor,
like the looping thing,
just happening again? And basically, it progresses, or it gets worse and worse as things.
And honest to God, Hideo Kojima is exactly the type of person who should have been involved in Silent Hill, and he would have been had he not fallen out with Konami, I think it was. But either way, that would have been a fucking phenomenal game. But it was that when I was watching it with a friend, because I'd never sadly downloaded it in time. If I did, my PlayStation would be worth a fucking fortune. Because if you've got it, you sell now. But anyway, it was watching a playthrough of it without any commentary or anything on it that really put the shits up someone I was with watching it, and he explained why it was putting the shits up on him, and it made me think back to when I was at uni. See, it all links. When you're watching a film, you're watching it with the safety of voyeurism. When you're playing a game, especially a first-person game like PT was, you're experiencing it. You're a lot more involved.
Yeah. And
I think that's where the horror comes in. It's a different experience to watching it, because as you mentioned there, horror games have more of an effect on yourself even than a movie does. You could watch the scariest film in the world and be okay. But you're actually living the game, likes of, which isn't on my list again, but Outlast. When I did play that, I got the same feeling as when I was watching like PT, where you're walking around the corridors, shitting your pants, seeing people impaled and having these mad guys running at you. Your heart does start pump, like you do actually poop yourself. Poop. But I think that's what makes, for me especially, because I love to be scared. So a good horror game is perfect.
You've touched on another really good point there. I look forward to, like, I watch horror films and I enjoy them for the experience and stuff like that, but there's very few and far between where I'm actually genuinely scared. It's been quite a while since I've watched a film, possibly the last one, and I think we'll probably have to do a review on it at some point. I think it's Midsommar.
Same, actually.
Not to go. The reason being is because it is entirely believable that could happen, and people would then ultimately not to ruin anything, get away with it as well. And it's not as, the more you think about it, it's not as mad as what it initially appears to be. It's no more mad than any other supposed religion. But yeah, I think that's it. I look forward to watching. I watched that entire film with my mouth a gasp. There could have been flies just going in and out. like some like that's is it not a scene? What movie is it where the mouth the fly crawls into his mouth, but apparently it's not real. It was like an issue with the camera. No, it's Belloc in Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a bit where apparently the fly goes into his mouth and then just crawls back out again, and he just doesn't react, and it just makes him incredibly terrifying. Because it gets referenced in an episode of American Dad. Because Barry turns out that he's an evil genius if he doesn't take his vitamins.
It's class.
In quotation marks. My name is Barry.
It's
Steve, get in the bottom bunk and go to sleep.
It's a bit. Wait, he says. I think he says that, and then you hear. And he goes, "That will be with you momentarily."
That's why he said like Gary Oldman. It was just like, but I think that was what it was a reference to. He was talking to me, and the fly went into his mouth, and then it just, it never came out again. And I think it's a reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark where Belloc's talking.
Isn't that a?
I think it's in that weird.
Oh, isn't that a thing? Was it Belloc? You say his name was? Because I can't remember. I was watching a video about that. And the fly doesn't actually go in his mouth. I think you half mentioned.
Oh yeah, it
sort of crawls on his lip, but it disappears from our view, and then just flies off again or something.
But yeah, it's just that whole. Normally anybody would just be like, but he's so focused, so laser focused.
Good actor.
But yeah, because he went on, he's done a bunch of other stuff. He's the priest in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Stupid priest. And then, what's it? The guy from not Terminator, fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. But he's also the bad guy, Jack Napier. No, not Jack Napier. That's fucking Joker. He's what's his name? It's in Lethal Weapon 3. He's the bad guy with the armor-piercing bullets and the mustache, and he's building like a thing out in the desert. He's also the doctor in Hot Fuzz.
Is he? Oh Christ!
He's the guy with the hat and the glasses and everything else, and he's and then also who's in it? It's got the Hound. It's got the fucking Equalizer in it. It's got the guy.
Edward Woodward's in it.
Edward Woodward.
Who's he in that?
He's the head of the Neighbourhood Watch Alliance.
I'm gonna have to go back to Hot Fuzz. Jesus Christ! I know the Hound's in it. He's the big guy.
Yeah.
From Game of Thrones. I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan. I've seen them all, but I watched them all pretty much at once. Oh crikey! Oh god, it is Edward Woodward. Christ. Wicker Man royalty himself, like,
and he's in fucking Hot Fuzz. Like, I still look back and going like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, it's phenomenal.
Do you know, yesterday I did. It was a quiz for where we work, which is fine. It was a movie quiz, and I found out some fucking amazing things about movies. And I'm going to share a couple right now because they didn't end up getting asked. And this is relevant to what you were saying there, because Edward Woodward was in The Wicker Man. Christopher Lee was too. Now, apparently, Christopher Lee has appeared in more feature films than anybody else. Do you want to know how many films he's been in?
How many?
Well, apparently, it's over. That's what they have to say. They can't get it. It's over 280 films. That's mental.
He's got 280. Well, obviously, he was born in like 22, died in 2005. He'd been acting since. There's a film, there's a movie gets referenced in a Metallica music video, one, where they're all in this, like, is it the First World War? But he's been acting since, as he continues to scroll back. He was in a TV show in 1946 and 1947 called Kaleidoscope.
I'm actually winning at the moment his autograph as well, and if I get that, I'll be so happy.
But yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of credits that he has. 282.
Is that the exact figure? Is that going to be fine?
According to IMDb. Indigo Mike Delta Bravo.
IMDb. But
Buzz.
But no, apparently as well, one other fact which is sort of relevant because numbers are involved. That's how cool I am. Do you know how many films exist in the world? And I'm talking feature-length movies. That was one of the questions that was going to be on that quiz.
He does the little pinky thing. 1 million films. It's probably way more than
honestly,
that. It's like 20 million.
Less. 500. Yeah, 500,000. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But it was something
I
But I genuinely, I don't think that surely is true. They must be taking something away. Maybe that's Western films. Do you know what I mean? Like,
does it include movies of the?
That's a good point as well. So it depends.
I reckon you could possibly triple that figure. I'm sure.
I know, at least.
And if anybody was listening, what we mean by is snuff.
Yes.
Snuff movies.
By snuff movies, we mean people who smoke on camera. So.
Because you used to get the little snuff boxes right. Where like you tap it out. It's like basically like it was just basically sniffing tobacco. and then because there used to be quite a few people in the village I grew up in, they would be doing snuff. And like after I watched the movie 8mm with him and Joaquin Phoenix, it kind of changed. They go, oh, he's just around the corner doing a bit of snuff. And
fucking hell.
He's But
that's right. Yeah. So a snuff film is someone who's taken that snuff as they're knackering someone to death with their dick. So anyway, no, it's not.
Imagine that, like sort of you turn up on the first day. You've done like sort of you've auditioned for the part. How does that work? Maybe we'll save this to a later episode for maybe a movie around.
How do you audition for a snuff movie? That's a good point. Actually, that leads me on to my first pick. Like, oddly it does, yeah.
Go for it.
So to get right back to the point, my number 5.
Yes.
Number 5.
Favorite
horror game, mine are in order, is actually Manhunt.
Very good shout. I was actually thinking about that the other
which
day.
Which is oddly specific to what we were on about with the snuff film, because the basic premise of Manhunt is you play. I think his name's Cash. It's a Rockstar game, so already you kind of have thoughts, and it's probably because of this game, to be fair, because he's on death row. He was to be killed. For all intents and purposes, he is killed, but he's taken away by a very wealthy filmmaker who wants to make a snuff movie where you're the star. So you go around killing people, but by people, it's not like members of the public. It's actually it's like gang members and things like that, and a lot of Nazi racists as well. So part of it's slightly cathartic. But I don't know, have you ever played Manhunt, or do you know much about it?
I know I've watched my friend play it. It's quite... Because initially it's very... I appreciate them, but I'm not a huge stealth game fan, and I think that was a lot of the mechanics that was in it. Where you've got to sneak up on somebody. I think and the slower or the longer you leave it before you then do the kill rewards you with a much more horrific death. I think one of them was like a fucking broken bottle and a plastic bag. You put it over some poor bastard's head and then stab him in the face. I think the plastic bag possibly would have done it. And then you stab a shit out of his face, as you do. And I think how they get away with it, I think it's very clever. It's like, all right, this man's running around as it looks as though it's being filmed on camera, for everybody's enjoyment, like a snuff movie. But if you make all the bad guys, all the people who you're going up against, horrible
more
villains,
deplorable, then
they would never be able to get away with it. All right, we're going to release shit into the public. We have full access to the CCTV footage and want you to go out and kill a load of civilians. You wouldn't be able to get away with that.
That's the thing with Manhunt. It's got obviously a very odd lifespan as well, because the first one came out, made all sorts of fucking messes in people's trousers, probably because at the same time, a little bit after, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out, and there was a whole sex scandal in that. When literally a few years previously, because on one of them, there was a sex mini game in it, and people censors lost their shit. When literally a few years ago, they just released Manhunt, where you were going around killing people in the most gruesome ways. Now, obviously, in San Andreas, you probably kill a lot more people, just mowing them down, using machine guns and shit. But with Manhunt, it was very personal. Like you were glassing people in the eyes, and but yeah, its lifespan was odd, because on the Wii, it actually came with a plastic bag. And that's when people started thinking, oh no, maybe that's a little bit too far. So like playing it on the Wii would have been weird as fuck. I only did it on PlayStation 2 as a little kid. I probably shouldn't have.
I think it's one of those things. It's a tightrope for them to be able to get away with it, or they do it very subtly. If they don't do a huge amount of advertising, what happens is by word of mouth, it gains notoriety. Like people go, "Have you played Manhunt?"
That's how we heard about it. Yeah,
Have you played Manhunt?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I think to a certain extent, we're like Rockstar as well, and this is very, very clever. Particularly whenever the first GTA came out, there was fake news about it getting recalled because it was so violent. There's so much uproar and going like, it's a criminal doing horrible things and everything else. But it was just, there was a narrative to it, which is how you get away with it, and a bunch of other stuff. But it was just like, it's just a silly fun game. And anybody that says that, you know, video games that go off and make people horrific, they were already fucked up as it is.
Well,
anyway.
exactly. Yeah. No.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that was not to get into it too much, but there was a horrific thing that happened in America, and he blamed it on the movie Old Boy.
Oh, yeah.
And the movie Old Boy basically does not glorify violence or vengeance.
In fact,
in any way,
it
shape,
condemns
or
it.
form.
The guy is punished severely for it.
Oh yeah, for just speaking about something, and it's just horrific as to people don't realise as to
They don't watch.
I would argue that Old Boy is a horror movie.
100%. Yeah. The horror in that is
totally like
different too. I mean, there's gruesome horror as well, but yeah.
It's horror. It's horrors of a different colour.
yeah.
Little shitty Wizard of Oz. So this is I didn't realise until I was sitting thinking back to myself and going, fuck, there's something about Manhunt that really stuck in my mind. Brian Cox is the director. He does the voiceover work. So Brian Cox, who was in Manhunter, which is the Thomas Harris book with Grissom from CSI, William Peterson, which was the original. He was the first Hannibal actor, not Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. So Brian Cox, not the astrologer, whatever one's the real one. It's the other Brian Cox does the voice of the director in the game.
His voice is mint on it as well, because he's constantly, you wear an earpiece in it. I think you may know, you said you watched it. You wear an earpiece and he's giving you direction as you're going. So obviously he's using street cameras to film you do these horrible things. Now, they did do a sequel, I don't know if you knew about that, Manhunt 2, which was in production hell for a long time because the first one caused up such a stink. The second one, you actually play a doctor with mental issues who has split personality. I've just spoiled the game. You'll not be able to get a hold of it, so it's fine. And they actually censor the violence in it. That one got banned everywhere. And I think it's more due to the handling, where the first one, you're a criminal, you're a murderer who murders other murderers, basically. It's not tame, it's not light, but it's lighter than a mental patient going around doing it. To be honest with you, it was a little in bad taste almost. Now, I did manage to get it, but it's not one I play much, because it's really uncomfortable, where the first one's not bad. The main reason I did play it, just to get back to why I like this, as a little kid, for me it was the closest thing to playing Michael Myers. As stupid as that is.
I know, yeah. But yeah, it's you trying to put yourself in, and that you've another one. I'm just going to hark back to what you mentioned beforehand about the first person aspect of it. So some of the best horror movies, if it's handled well, because in Halloween there's aspects of it. I think in the opening scene where you're the killer. Yeah. And the late great Roger Ebert basically said that movies is basically pure empathy, because you're putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And with video games, it's even more personal. Not to say that other movies aren't personal in their own right, but you're very much you're the player. All you have is what is in front of you and what you're going to be doing, and the game is shaped by your choices and etc. But yeah, that's you put yourself in the shoes of a killer, and then if it makes you feel unnerved, then it's A, the job, the game's done its job, and B, you're not a socio or a psychopath.
I mean, if you sat there completely enjoying it and like watching Old Boy thinking, God, I want to go out and kill someone, then you had issues prior to playing the game and watching Old Boy. But no, watching it, playing the game, that's the difference. So when we were trying to define what makes a good horror game, it's putting you in control of a serial killer. And on paper, that sounds, that'll be interesting. But in practice, it's very uncomfortable. And at the end boss, because there is a sort of boss fight in it, I guess, you go up against a very Leatherfacey sort of killer, but he's called Pickles. Look him up, he's still horrific even now with his pixelated face. But he wears like a pig head, and he's got a chainsaw where you've only got these little sticks. But yeah, it's very stealthy and very unnerving. I played part 1 and part 2 once when I was at school, within a space of a couple of weeks, and I was so paranoid about shadows for ages afterwards. And at that point, I knew, that this is probably in my top 5 now, because it actually had a lasting effect. And to do that to me, because I'm a warped little bastard apparently, is a good thing. And I don't think Rockstar, because I think it is Manhunt and mostly Manhunt 2 that gave it its bad reputation for a while. Obviously Grand Theft Auto was where it all kicked off. The later games that they did, the likes of Red Dead and Red Dead 2 specifically, which are amazing, they almost feel like an apology to what they did, if you know what I mean. Like back then, they're like, we didn't mean to kick up a fuss. You do kill a lot of people, especially in Red Dead 2, but you make up for it and you pay the price. And I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those ones. It is a redemption. Not to go off topic a bit much. Yeah, exactly. Because technically it's the third Red Dead game with Revolver.
So it's Red Dead Revolver, which is loads of fun. We had like the scorpion burning your hand, and then they did the other ones, which is made by another company. I really enjoyed that one. But it does. I think those two games in particular, it's not just violence or the horror of what it would have been like living in. It does what Unforgiven does, which is I think it's written and directed and stars Clint Eastwood, which is a phenomenal western. If anybody has the opportunity to watch it, it shows. It doesn't just show you the violence; it just shows you what happens afterwards. The aftermath. The aftermath of violence and the effect that would have on somebody. Like if you spent your life as a gunslinger killing loads and loads of people, that's going to have a lasting effect, and maybe you want to kind of make amends, or at least try and leave the world in a better place in which you find it. But yeah, that was quite good, and I think it's very careful. If it is an apology, it's very, very careful, and just showing you that there is comeuppance for what you potentially do, etc. So I think in summary, Manhunt, a challenging wank.
Sorry, I didn't realise that's what you said. I thought I imagined it. I was like, my dreams have come.
Did he say
my
that?
dreams have come true.
So that's how it is. So Manhunt is it's a challenging one. It's not impossible.
It gets you there in the end. But no, it's one of those things. Last thought on Manhunt is that the amount of people that you do kill in it, and again, I want to use the term people loosely. They're not allowed to wear swastikas. For some reason, we were allowed to kill someone with in the eyes with glass, but you couldn't put a swastika on a neo-Nazi. So they've got different symbols, and they are neo-Nazis in it, a lot of them. You kind of want to be able to kill them in horrible ways as well, because they're all cunts. But you realise, you then also realise how dark what you're doing is as well. Like one of my other friends, Drew, who does listen, bless him, he played the first level of Manhunt. He had to turn it down because he has turn it off, sorry, because he has proper empathy for anything he does. He just felt dirty playing it, which is kind of cool in a way. The second one does actually have you killing like doctors, orderlies, and things like that, and that's where I think the line crosses almost. It's too far. But yeah, the original point was that in Manhunt, the amount of people you kill, it's probably in the hundreds, to be honest with you. Well, like if you play something like Skyrim, or if you play something like GTA, or you play something that's action-based, you probably kill thousands of people. But for some reason, Manhunt, with it being so bloody personal, is the R-rated game. I mean, they all are, I suppose, but still. But yeah, that Manhunt's my 5. Have you got?
The one I did have, and I find it was so. I'm gonna put 2 together. So there was I think you mentioned it the other day, you were playing it. So there's I think it's Alien Trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Which is I had that for the Sega Saturn, but it also made me think of it. There was an Alien 3 side-scrolling Mega Drive game.
Solid. It was so good.
So fucking hard, yeah. So those 2, it's because, not that I feel as though I'm desensitized to the Alien movies and the Xenomorphs and stuff like that. I think it's whenever you're a kid, your imagination is. You know what? I'd probably say my imagination is probably much more wild now than what it was when I was a kid, but still, I think it's sort of, I understand and realise that these things are never going to happen. There is going to be no xenomorphs just emerging from the shadows, giving it the killing Dallas in the tube. But yeah, it's all those things that just playing that game. I think I played it even in an arcade with other people watching me playing it. Still fucking terrifying because they're just so laser focused, and like their entire job, if you want to call it that, their vocation, their calling, it's just to fuck shit up, and it just scared the shit out of me. They're just kind of slick and sexy and all shiny and KY jelly, you know. It just scared the shit out of me. Just this thing is just gonna fucking leg it towards you. It's gonna mess you up. It's gonna come in via the tunnels. It's terrifying. And oh wait, I've got a flamethrower and like a shitty machine gun. And the bullets travel so slow that I can see them flying. Oh yeah,
that's on 3. What I quite like about 3 is because you're playing Ripley, aren't you? And you've got the guns from the film, or from Aliens specifically. It makes the noises and things, which is class.
It's like, I can't remember how you do it, but it's like that sort of almost sort of alternative. It's not the the stuff you would normally associate with machine guns. But yeah, that was it. It used to scare the shit out of me, just sitting going, oh, we're going to descend deeper into the base, and just going, fuck do I have to? Oh, there's face huggers, there's xenomorphs, oh, there's probably a fucking queen here that it ties in no way. In title alone is it linked with the
there's 3 queens in it. Oh, I love that game.
Not 1 queen, not 2 queens,
but 3
queens.
Did you ever get to play, because they did a sequel to that as well, Alien Resurrection, when the game came out?
No, I never played that.
For some reason, the Alien Trilogy, as you've mentioned there, it's pretty cool because they're constantly coming at you. That's the whole point, the dirty bastards.
Yeah.
But you can see them well in advance. You've got your radar. You can shoot them before they get to you, as long as you're good enough with your slow bullets. Alien Resurrection, you couldn't see the aliens. It was so bloody dark until they were literally on you. So it was actually kind of hard to play. You had to put the cheats in to actually enjoy it, which was really annoying.
Maybe you just put a cheat code in now, and there's one I mentioned to you the other day. So Alien Trilogy. So I'm going to put these kind of maybe my 1 and 2 or 5 and 4 or whatever way we want to have it. And then Alien Trilogy. So looking back, it's pretty, in comparison to modern day graphics, it's quite shonky, but still it scared the shit out of me because like ammunition was quite low. Save points were few. You had to get a whole way through a level, and you had to have a memory card to be able to sever it as well. So in some cases, maybe if you didn't have one, or if it was around at your mate's house or whatever, you couldn't save it. You just play the game, and if you got wiped out, you got wiped out. Tough shit. And it was what I loved about it as well. It had little cutscenes linking in with, I think, 1, 2, and 3. I think it was more so 2, more so like the action-based element of it. But I think the ending of it emulates the ending to Alien 3, which she falls into the lava, etc. You had like the radar coming up, which is quite cool. There's like a few not puzzle-based ones, but you can like go off and go through tunnels and everything else, which is quite good. And then another aspect of it was you could just hear just a little crawling noise, and the face hugger would just jump up at you and be like, fuck.
They sort of gently crawl up your eyes for some reason as well.
It was terrible. Yeah, and just the idea of those are fucking horrible looking.
The death scenes were pretty cool though as well. So whatever killed you, you would get a cutscene for, which I thought at the time was brilliant. Like a facehugger death scene was great because she just falls down with a facehugger on her. The Queen Alien death scene was the best. Fucking hell, just straight through your stomach. God.
But the bit in it I really enjoyed, and I don't know if it's still the case. You get the machine gun, but it had the grenade launcher.
Oh yeah. God.
But the grenade launcher would skim the grenades off the table. So that's how you knew it had progressed from, say, Doom style graphics, where it was clearly 2D, but it just happened to be facing you at all times. Whereas this sort of it was very similar, but it was clearly like a step up. But I remember the cheat code was Funky Gibbon.
Yes, it was.
And I think at the end of the game as well, it just used sound clips, or it would just let little sound bites from the movies. The game over, man, game over, and it would sort of, that's how it would end. And I think I told you that I put the cheat code in for like being invincible, and I basically sat for 25 to 30 minutes killing the Queen with the lowest ranking level weapon, which was the pistol. And and she's just constantly coming at you, hey, and just fucking pat, and you just go, oh, fuck off, gonna have to reload again, fucking, and just keep on emptying clips in there, and it took fucking ages. But yeah, that was one that stuck with me. It was primarily the face huggers, because I think they're terrifying. They're just little creepy little bastards.
They look really good, even in that era, to be honest with you. Like, because they got all because they crawl on your eyes in there. It seems because you can see everything. So the detail's actually there, weirdly. But they include the dog aliens, which is kind of cool. In some of the later levels.
But yeah, it was one of those ones. That's the one I wanted to go with, the Alien Trilogy, because I find that quite affecting, and Alien 3, just because it was just fucking terrifying. Alien 3 more so because you couldn't really save it, and you'd have to progress the whole way through it to like, right. I'm sure there was loads of people that did the same. Where you left your Mega Drive on and turned the TV off, and you come back on it and you turn the TV back on. Obviously, like, my mum ever ends up listening to this, and I kind of hope she does. I hope she doesn't. She'll be just going like, "You did what? No wonder our electricity bills were so high." But yeah, that was one of those things that was just terrifying, because if you died, that was it. Yeah. Fucking game over, man. Game over. And I was like, no, I couldn't do that to myself now. Like, the idea of going back with like only like a couple of buttons and just go, what's going on? Where's the trigger button? What's happened? And it was just like. It was more unforgiving, which I think made it more terrifying.
Yeah, we're spoiled for choice now as well in this modern world, as it were, because I went back to Super Mario Bros. 3. I've got like old consoles still. I was collecting them, and the idea that you have to go through that entire game in one, it just blew my mind. I've got it now for the Super Nintendo, where you could save it, but fucking hell. And do you know what you get if you beat that game, by the way, Super Mario Bros. 3? You get infinite P-Wings, so you can just fly through all the levels. So you turn off your console, you start from the very beginning again without it. So you need to complete the game to be able to complete the game again with P. What the fuck was the point, you lunatics? But no, Alien 3, because with that being originally, like you say, an arcade game, to then be ported to the console, they didn't make it any easier. So the permadeath, the idea that it was hard was so you had to put more coins in. But obviously no more coins were involved because you own it, and they didn't make it any easier. And to be honest with you, that made it better. Arguably.
I couldn't do it now. No. Like I remember playing some games for the Nintendo and a bunch of other ones, and it was just like, this game's fucking weird. Like I would possibly argue that the games have become more forgiving. Whereas back then, like, oh, you're dead, that's it, back to the start. What the
like, continues.
And you were tethered as well. What I think is brilliant as well. I very much doubt whether it was intentional or not. You had to be, obviously the TVs were smaller, the quality wasn't as good. You had to be closer. It was more intimate. You were right up on the TV. Whereas I've got a 55-inch in my office and a 65 down in the living room.
And I'm not. How big are your TVs though?
Still.
Anyway.
But yeah, but I've got two quite big TVs. But yeah, I think it was like the whole idea you were tethered. There was an umbilical between the TV and you with this controller. And the amount of times where I was like moving the controller off to the side to see if I could jump further if I was playing Super Mario, because sort of like, I'm sure I got laughed at by my friend Christine if she ever listens to this, and going like, when that doesn't make you jump any further, I'm just going like, I can jump further.
You do though, you lean in. But I see what you mean about tethered. I thought you meant tethered just because you had to be closer, but you are physically tethered because of the controller as well, I've just thought.
None of this here old wireless. The wireless controller is by. I wouldn't know about that. But yeah, so those are the kind of two that stuck in my mind initially. I wanted to go kind of chronologically to a certain extent.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, they're good shouts as well, because the Alien Trilogy, as you mentioned there already, I was playing quite recently even. That bit where you see the Queen. So I'll go through on her levels. You're in a nest, so there's no other xenomorphs. There's her and her eggs, which could just make a bunch of those fun little fucking facehuggers. So I'll go around and destroy all the eggs before even engaging her. And when you see her in the shadows, even now it's intimidating. And it's lasted, I don't know, what is it, 20 years old now?
I think Xbox is 20 years old now, which then means that the Sega Saturn would have been prior to that. Because the Sega Saturn died, and I think it's the Dreamcast died prior to the Xbox One ever coming, for the first Xbox coming out. I mean,
Dreamcast was underrated as well, sadly, mate. I don't have one, but I always wanted one.
But yeah, I think they were quite light-hearted first party games. I don't think they had many third party games, which is unfortunate. I did play some amazing games over weekends with my cousin. I can't remember what it's called. It was a bit like Smash Brother, but it was like isometric view, and everybody had mad weapons. And there was one of them where he basically just fired a load of rockets and it wiped everybody out. And we jokingly called it the Saddaminator.
Nice. But yeah.
Obviously, that's all hat now because he died. I say he be dead. I say he be dead. Where's the Colonel? I said, where's the Colonel? So
yeah.
So what was your number 2?
Oh yeah. So
or number 4. Number
4. Hey. But no, number 4. Hey. But no, yeah, number 4. This is mostly because I don't think. Because a lot of horror films, with it being first persons, where it's like films fuck me in the head. Horror games are quite good when they're first person. Already, I've picked a few that have been third person, and this one is not different. It's mostly for its difficulty and its visuals, and because I love this type of game. But Bloodborne.
Okay.
I wanted to pick Dark Souls, but I don't think it's horror-y enough. It's more. It is, but Bloodborne is 100% a fucking horror game.
What did you say it was? What sort of? It's very what? What was that word you used?
Oh, I've literally forgotten it already. What was it? Horror.
Horror-y.
Oh,
yeah. I just wanted to make sure you elaborate that it was horror.
Horror-y.
and not full of.
Yeah. So obviously with Dark Souls and things, it's got a reputation now. A lot of games are being compared to Dark Souls, so they'll say, "Oh, it's very Dark Souls-y or horror-y." But even you suggested me one as well a while back. It was that Star Wars one, which Fallen Order, was it?
Fallen Order, yeah.
That is the only one that I've actually played that is very Dark Souls-y. I actually take umbrage with that term a lot of the time. What that usually means is it's just unforgiving, and there's checkpoints in it. Now, what you were saying about like losing progress being quite a horror aspect as well, in a way, dying does have an effect. That's very like Bloodborne and Dark Souls. If you don't reach the checkpoint with your limited resources from one to another, you're straight back at the checkpoint with all the enemies back. And not only just the enemies going forward, the enemies that you have already killed as well. Like, so if you wanted to go back even, you've got to go back through everything that you've already done. Not to mention, the bosses on it are just, oh man, because it's from Software.
Right.
Yeah, if I do remember rightly, and it put me in mind of Hammer Horror, and you'll find a lot of these that I've picked remind me of films or film in some way. If I can feel like I'm playing a movie, that's great for me.
Yeah.
But in Bloodborne, again, the basic breakdown of it is, with From Software, you don't get much of a story. You have to kind of figure it out. It's very hard. You're in a world, for some reason, with monsters. Again, there's going to be a lot of, for some reasons. You're a hunter who, for some reason, also has some sort of werewolfy power, but you never really get to explore that an awful lot. Because you do get to eviscerate people with a werewolf hand a little bit, if you can manage it. But I don't know if have you ever played the likes of Dark Souls or Bloodborne, or?
In all honesty, it's one of those ones that, like, I think with that reputation of being so unforgiving, I think I'd probably just, like, what's it called? Rage quit and kick a hole in my TV and just, kill everybody in the house. Just going, you fucking what? I've been playing the game for like 20 minutes and like, I'm about to get to the end, and then some guy just comes out of nowhere. Like Roberto.
That's what it's like. It's son of a bitch.
But he's going, fuck.
But no, it's because it's such a it's a weird game as well. Visually, it's stunning, as all From Software games are. And when you're on about rage quitting there, I'm a very calm gamer. If you've ever seen, because I do Let's Plays on a YouTube channel, they're all shite, don't worry about it. But I'm very calm, like I don't rage quit. But I have on 2 games. One of them was Bloodborne, because one of the very first bosses you play is just fight against is just so unbelievably hard for the level that you are. Even if you were to grind over and over again, which I did. Fuck him even now, Father Gascoigne, if you know who I'm talking about, listeners. Fuck him to death. But that one I rage quit for a week. Like I literally was shaking with anger. Paused it, left it, and I think my partner turned off the console TV. He was like, "You're not coming back to this." I said, "No, well, you can't pause the game." Actually, I think I closed it down. That's another thing, you can't pause the game because it's online technically. You can be invaded, you can invade others. That's another fun little fucking thing. When you're halfway there.
When you mean fun, you mean frustrating and just.
God, but the other one was actually Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, I think it's called. Which is
it's like the. Is he not got like a fucked up wicker hand?
Yeah. So it's another From Software game. Now, every time, what I quite like about them is with Demon Souls to Dark Souls, it's pretty much the same because they're like successors. Mm-hmm. So you have to block all the time. With Bloodborne, it's very keep active. So you've got a gun even, very, very limited ammo. You have to roll out of the way of danger. You never block because you will be hurt. Sekiro, it's all about parrying. And it's just every time. So if you're good at Dark Souls, I guarantee, which I am, if I do say so myself, there is again a Let's Play on there. You'll be good at Bloodborne to a degree. You'll be terrible at Sekiro because it's a beautiful game. But I got to the first boss. It took me a week to beat it. I rage fucking quit after, like, during that as well. Came back to it, got to the second boss, died immediately, and I was told that I actually sold the game. Sold the special poster I got with it, sold everything, and I'm not getting it again. I'm done with it. That's the only time I was done with the game. And that's not to say it's a bad game. I was just so mad. And this was when it was brand new. I bought it brand new and I sold it at like a discounted price. Son of a bitch. But
oh, do you know what it is? It's like a fucking poison challenge. It's like the fucking puzzle box. Was it the lament configuration from it? That's how I'd imagine it plays out. I can't. This fucking shiny golden brown Rubik's cube. I can't get it. I sold my house to buy this shit in Peru, and then you give it to. You know the bit that always gets me? I think I put a post about it on Facebook a few years back. I was watching Hellraiser, right? And the bit that is the most disgusting. So despite all the horrific stuff that happens in it, what's it called? What was one of the working titles? Was it sadomasochistic killers from like hell?
From hell,
some shit like that. I think that was. Yeah, that's what it was going to be called. And going like, Hellraiser's way better. It just conjures this amazing. Instead of like, it's either a little rapscallion where he's like, putting poop on fire, burning poop bags on people's front doorstep. But the bit that is the most horrific for that whole movie. None of the blood, none of the pins, none of the shit that happens. People getting their heads stoved in because this woman's lured them back as a honey pot. She doesn't fuck them, and then the other guy kills them. Anyway, so I'll not get into it too much. It's the bit where the guy's handing over the box, and he's got the mankiest fucking nail I've ever seen in a man. It conjures images. Did you ever watch? Not that I ever watched it. It has what's his name? It's Tony Robinson from Blackadder. As a time team. Team Time.
Oh yeah.
No, Time Team.
Time
isn't
Team.
It? So there's a guy who's always showing you with his pinky.
Oh yeah.
Oh, just look at the detail on this axe head. Oh, look at these arrows, and just go, oh Jesus, mate. Cut their nails, clean them, get the nail brush. No, he likes collecting.
Use the axe head to clean your nail, you bastard.
But that's the bit that always got me. But that's like you've conjured an image of you just like somebody having this Hellraiser box in them, so I'm just going like, nah, fuck this, mate, I can't do it. And then somebody else goes, I'll take it off your hands, and then completes it immediately.
Oh, I've seen Let's Plays of it. People do like Sekiro in about 2 hours, and I'm like, you can fuck off. It took me 2 hours to get to the first checkpoint. Like, it's so difficult. It's a good game, but it's probably the same for people playing likes of Dark Souls when they're not used to that mechanic, or Bloodborne as well. Because that was a bit of a shock. With Dark Souls, you get a shield, you have to block, or you're taught to block. Where this one, you're constantly on the move. It's very, because a lot of it's like you use blood vials to heal yourself. You need to collect these umbilical cords, I know, to get the good good ending. But it's all very. I'm trying to think like Cthulhu-y, that sort of, because there's when you get these madness points, you start seeing these giant, massive-looking Cthulhu monsters around. One of which will grab you and take you to another area. God.
Gate Hiao.
Yeah, but why it kind of sticks to my mind? It sticks in my mind even a bit like Dark Souls is. Your hand isn't held at all. You're put in this world. You can go anywhere you want. If you go the wrong way, you'll know it quick enough because you'll just die.
Just back. Get shoo away, child, and you're just going, fuck. No, that's it. I'm gonna go back to checkpoint 1 with nothing. I've got no umbilical cords. I've got no blood files. I've got no children's teeth. That's all the stuff. I don't have it anymore because I lost it.
But man. But that's
so Bloodborne.
Some of the designs of the monsters though, like they're so fucking cool. Like really, really good. My least favourite enemies on it are probably the human ones.
Because the most horrific monster of all is man.
Yeah.
turns out it's man.
But yeah, I mean that's my number 4. I don't want to go into it too much because it's one of those, it's very hard to talk about. It's more you've got to experience it.
You weren't there,
yeah. Especially with Gascoigne, because that one that was what I was going to get at as well. I actually did rage quit against him for a week, so I lost to him quite a lot. Rage quit. A week later, I came back and beat him the second time, and I was so happy. I think I shared the video everywhere. I was like, I fucking beat him, and it was tentative, like it was fucking clutch.
I'm glad you've clarified this, because you talking about Father Gascoigne, I thought you were telling about you. I thought you just opened up to me in some sort of almost like breakthrough moment in your therapy where you went to a Catholic school. Father Gascoigne, fuck you, Father Gascoigne, and he's going, what? You don't know he's talking about. He's just talking about he's talking about a game. It's alright. It's fine.
It wasn't a priest that I punched to death as a child, but yeah, no.
I beat him to death with his own crucifix. Choked him out with his own rosary beads. Anyway,
that reminds me of that horrible crucifix we mentioned in an earlier episode, which I'm not going to repeat. But yeah, your number, was it your number 3 then? If you combined it.
Yeah. Well, the one that sort of in more, I suppose I'm still going to go chronologically. So the next one that affected me the most, and anybody who knows me, who have ever seen me talk about this game, so Dead Space. Nice. Dead Space 1 and 2. So got Dead Space when I was living. Yeah, when I was living. But yeah, so I got the first one. Knew very little about it. Obviously, this is before everything was plastered on YouTube. It was just adverts for it everywhere, and I saw reviews and just going like, "This looks terrifying. This looks amazing." And then the second one I got bought for me from an ex-girlfriend. His girlfriend at the time. Dead Space 2. I was living with my friend. So we'd both been through not particularly nice breakups. I'm not going into too much details, but he says, "Wait, if I bin her off, do you want to move in with me? And we'll you'll help me pay my rent, and you get to live with me, your best mate." And I'm going like, that sounds good. And I got a little bit choked up about it. Anyway, I moved in. We both had the exact same LG 37-inch TV. We both had an Xbox 360. So we tried to play like loads of games where it was co-op. Nice. But I bought Dead Space 2 for the Xbox 360, and I played it during the day. I had the windows open. There was sunshine. Sunshine.
There's sunshine everywhere.
Sunshine blazing through the window. There was people in the house. I wasn't alone. I had a cat sitting next to me, keeping me, for emotional support. And still, shit. But what? Like, I was thinking about this yesterday and just going like, Dead Space, there's so many points where we should just go, nah,
I'm out.
Guys, I should leave. I'm out. So to give you anybody who's never played it beforehand, you're Isaac. I think it's Isaac Clarke. Isaac basically. So he's like sort of an engineer. He's going to go with a couple of other people to like some sort of Event Horizon type ship, which they're the planet Kraken. Yeah. It's went quiet. We've not heard back from them for a couple of weeks. So we're going to go check and going. Immediately, I'll be going, no. What? They've been cracking open planets and we've not heard back from them. Should we go out and say it? Nah, fuck them. It's like saying, we've heard, somebody moved into this haunted house, and they was getting some of the antiques out of it, and then we've not heard back. We're going to go and check. No. leave it. That's it. And then you get there. Oh, there's loads of blood. Fuck it. Oh, there's blood. Get out. The bit where it says cut off their limbs. Out. Flickering lights where there's anything but perfect LED lighting. Out.
See, I'd be the first to die in a horror movie scenario, because as soon as somebody says, "Oh, do you want to come to my ancient castle to look at my haunted antique?" I'm there already. You'd be looking at a ghost version of me as I've run away already.
But yeah, there's so many bits in those sort of games where you'd be like, I would love to see a video game. It would be very short. The development time would be very, very short again. It would just be like, oh, we've got to this spaceship. No, I'm out. We're just going to get back on the ship and we're going to leave and we're going to report it, and somebody else is going to come by and sort this shit out, because I'm not getting involved. You don't have any weapons. It's just engineering tools that have been amended in order to dismember aliens, if you can even call them aliens. But like, if somebody, we're going to go to this planet, we'll find some ancient seed-looking thing that looks like it comes from an Ann Summers catalogue that gets inserted into a person's person. Yeah. And we'll find it in some magic. We started transcribing it. What are you doing?
Just don't.
Like every horror film and every horror movie ever. Like, I always wonder what happens in these video games or these movies where it's like, have they never seen a horror film beforehand? Oh, we found this thing. We've started transcribing. Don't read from the book. Don't read from the artifact. Don't transcribe it. Don't read it aloud. Put it away in a lovely lead box. Bury it in the ground somewhere and forget it. Hopefully you'll never have to look at it again.
Have a priest piss on it.
Common sense. They fuck with shit, and that's what happens with the Dead Space. I've played a little bit of 3, but like 1 and 2 were very effective, as in like it's dimly lit. There's a lot of sort of flickering lights. You don't really have, like I said, weapons as such. You've got like retrofitted engineering stuff, like you've got a plasma cutter.
Yeah.
You don't shoot them in the head, which is normally what has the effect in most horror games. You've got to shoot the limbs off. You've got to dismember them to the point of where they then die. That scared the shit out of me, and the amount of jump scares that happens in that game where it's just a fucking tentacle just appears out of nowhere. Like I've played that, and if I was to go back and play it now, and it would still shit me up, despite the fact that I've completed them both multiple times. It still unnerves me. And you know full well that something terrible's happening. You'll back me up on this, and anybody else that's ever played a video game. It's like, we're going to go into this room. Oh, there's a load of ammo in this room before we go through this rickety old door where you've had to get multiple coloured passes to get into the door, or you've got to turn the power back up. Fucking leave the power. The reason that door is shut is just because there's shit behind it. The thing that is un-fucking killable. Leave it. Nah.
Blood seeping through the gap between the door. I wonder what that is. Let's open it up.
Oh, it must be jam. Oh, they must be making jam in space.
Jam? Do I?
No. But yeah, that's it. It was very effective, and it's still that thing about, oh fuck, it was terrifying. And what was hilarious about that game as well, I think I remember the specific of it, was you start getting these visions, and you start seeing your clearly dead girlfriend popping up, going, "Hey Isaac, do you wanna come on? Can I come and do this?" No, Isaac, you deserve better.
Move on.
Leave her.
Just move on.
But yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, you know what? You might feel guilty for a bit, but fuck that. You're not going back in. But yeah, that was it. I loved the games. Terrifying, so well done. I think it would be amazing to be adapted into a movie. Yeah. And I think even John Carpenter, and I think that's a sign because he's a big video gamer, which people don't realise. He loves the Dead Space games, and he said if I was going to adapt a game into a movie, it would be Dead Space.
I'd be happy with that.
Because it walks those lines of like Alien, because it's just people doing a job. It's just a blue collar guy doing an engineering job. It just happens to be in space, and he's just dealing with what he has at hand in the same way that they did in the Alien movies, which is like a flamethrower, no proper weapons, and it's fucking terrifying. Really, really well done and affecting. It still shits me up.
I think it's affecting because you've got those coming at you. There's like just constantly fucking trying to get you in an environment that's already incredibly hostile. So space itself is, I imagine, not being there in a while, pretty hostile. If you were to step out, you know what I mean, you're also going to die. They play with gravity in it quite well, which I like. But it's a new way of experiencing horror as well, which is kind of cool. That and the...
Because it's... Yeah, I was gonna say because it's as much as it's obvious, it happens within a vacuum.
Yeah.
And that's what's terrifying. Like in a horror movie, say there's a killer, you can run outside, you can run into the public, you can't do that in space. It's a case of like if you go into space, you freeze and your eyeballs get sucked out of your head, and that's it. Game over. Tough titty.
You're just trapped with these horrible things. Yeah.
Do you remember? You'll remember this. It was one of those games where you would just walk past there going, this thing's dead. Oh my god, this fella's dead. We'll just leave him alone. We'll close his eyes and put the pennies on it so he can cross over the bridge to the river Styx and all that sort of stuff anyway. But it made you adapt to the game, as in like, I'm going to walk past this corpse, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot him 2 or 3 times, despite that I have low ammunition, just to make sure the fucker's dead. Because I know full well I'm going to turn back around and there he is. And he doesn't even have arms. He's got raptor claws that are 2.5 feet long, and he's just coming at you going, like, what the fuck?
I used to, for some reason, my Isaac was just fucking like a lunatic. If there was a corpse anywhere, he'd shoot it once and then stamp on it about 30 times. Because his stamps would dismember you as well somehow, which was great.
Oh, God. Yeah. And then the death animations were fucking ridiculous. Those little, they're almost like spidery type things, but you shot one of them, did its stomach not burst open, and then there's a load of these horrible spider things. Yeah. And they would just devour you, and you would have to like stamp and sort of like thrash them off you, but they could just devour you. And it was like, and you would watch it, and the blood would splatter on the screen, making it that more affecting. But it was fucking terrifying, and because you never saw his face, you very much became the character. Yeah,
and that's useful as well. But yeah.
So what next? What next for you?
Oh yeah, my number 3. I'm noticing the time, so I'm not going to go on to it an awful lot because it's a very franchisey one, so you can go on about it. It sounds a bit obvious, but it is probably one of the best stories to any game I've ever played in my entire life, and it's specifically Silent Hill 2. Now, have you ever played Silent Hill 2? Because I don't want to ruin the ending. If so, if you've not,
no. I think I might have done, It's because I remember getting it and people saying, it's like Resident Evil. Is it like Resident Evil? Resident Evil, you get a gun. What do you get in Silent Hill? We're just going to go into this.
Maybe.
I've got... what's Leon got? And was it Leon and what's the other one?
Claire.
From Resident Evil 2? Claire. Because it's Leon and Claire. Is it Redfield, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's the sister of Chris Redfield, who's obviously the mainstay through all the games. But you've got a gun. Yeah, fair enough, you've got limited weapons. What have you got in Silent Hill? I've got this rusty old pipe. I've got this winged demon that appears out of fucking nowhere.
The ability to run away. God.
His superpower, he's got legs.
But
what was terrifying about was the radio as well.
When it would go off static, and that was really affecting because you're walking around, you're already tense because of the visuals and where you are, the scenery itself, and then you're in a horror version of the horrible scenery that you were already in all of a sudden after the sirens, which is another beautiful audio cue. But then you've got the radio, which tells you that there's something nearby. So you're in the fog, you can't see what's nearby. The radio's telling you there's something nearby. So your eyes and your ears are kind of conflicting a little bit. You've got hardly anything. You've got limited healing items. You cannot really run that fast. And then you've got this semi-sexy, deformed face nurse running at you with scalpels. Like, it's just, it was a tense situation. So the basic breakdown is you're playing a character called James Sunderland, who goes to Silent Hill because his wife's missing. And they used to go to Silent Hill on holiday. So he's hoping that she's gone there. He's just looking for her. He finds, obviously, a bunch of horrific things that happen. And I won't ruin the end. It is an old game, but it's one of those that I feel like if I ruin the ending, I've stolen the best experience. Because honest to God, it is just the best story to any game. It's unbelievable. Again, I won't go into it too long because again, we're limited on time, and it's a huge franchise. But James,
it's 22 years old.
James himself is he's so empathetic, if you know what I mean. Like, normally you don't, as you mentioned with Isaac there, you put yourself as the main character. In this, you are James. You're living his life. You're controlling his actions, but he is definitely not you. Which in a way is kind of a bit of a head fuck as well. But yeah, to be honest with you, that might be all I really want to go into. I just think the iconic look of Pyramid Head as well is just so... The bit when you first see him, because when you do actually see him, you're in an apartment building, and there's like these big metal bars, and there he is, just on the other side looking at you with his massive knife. At one point I stood and stopped because I thought, if I move, he's going to smash through those bars. And I was there for a good 5 minutes before I realised I actually have to go into the room that would then lead to where he is, which is also fun.
Yeah, it's fucking mental. It's how those kind of games were so effective and so well done. I remember telling my friends about it, and my brother played it considerably more than I did. I think the first one has multiple endings, doesn't it?
They all do. Yeah. So I actually got with the first one I got, because they always put a comedy one in it. There's a UFO ending.
Was that a comedy one? I genuinely thought that was...
Oh no, it's a comedy. And the second one, you can look it up as well. You have to do it on your second playthrough, and there's all sorts of mad specific things you need to do. There's a dog ending, in which the dog did it all. James Sunderland walks in, notices a dog at the helm of all these controls, wiggling these things, and he goes, "It was you all along," and he just like passes out. It's so weird. But yeah.
There's a TV show. I think it's made by Adult Swim. Is it called Mr. Pickles?
Oh yeah.
It's fucking mental. It just turns out this dog's like a satanic serial killer, just wiping people out, just for the hell of it. And it's one of those ones where it's sort of they're clearly having fun with it, but obviously imagine there's a proper serious ending to it.
Part 3 is so weird as well, because if you do, and I did part 3 probably the most because there's more endings to it and more weird things to unlock. Now you play, and 3 is the kid from the first one that you were trying to save, and she's grown up. If you beat the ending without using guns, you get a lightsaber. If you beat the game with the lightsaber, you get laser eyes. If you beat the game with only laser eyes, you become basically Sailor Moon. It's so fucking weird. Like, I think they had to add that in because it's so psychologically horror-y. That they needed something to
for them horrors in it.
That they had to put the comedy in it just for, I don't know, relief.
To cut the tension. Yeah.
But the second one is so tense. Like, it's really dark. Everyone you meet in it as well. It's the only time, I think, I might be wrong, in a Silent Hill game that... Because with Silent Hill, it's kind of up for debate. What is it? Is it hell? Are you in your own personal hell? And that kind of fits for me more, especially in 2. Because when you meet someone else, they also seem to be in their own personal hell. And there's one character in it who is constantly debating suicide. And I won't go into what happens on that as well, because that is linked to your story. And there's someone else who's also a murderer, which is just meant. But when every Pyramid Head in it is just tense, because you would think for somebody like that with such a big weapon, you've got guns and stuff. No, you're in a very tightly confined room with this guy with a huge weapon. You've just got to try and avoid it as best as you can, because you can't kill him for a very long time. Oh my god! But yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, it's late, but yeah. Oh my god!
It's one of those. It's one of those games that it's a bit like Bloodborne actually, but for a different reason. That when you enter a room, even on a subsequent play, you feel despair. It's like, so what is this next? On your first play, you're thinking, what's in store now? On your second play, you know what's coming, and you're like, oh, I've got to do this bit. So it's still effective, if you know what I mean.
Because those games, it was a fixed perspective that you played with, wasn't it? You played with a fixed perspective because you had to the camera was fixed in the same way that they had it with Resident Evil. You had to go maybe into a different corner of a room for that to then change. So your perspective is constantly changing, which then fucks with you. And that could either be an artistic direction or one that's just happened by circumstance in order to facilitate the gameplay.
You get slight,
I always find those games.
Oh yeah, you get slight control with the camera in it, but when it takes it away, it's really jarring. So I think the first encounter with Pyramid Head, all of a sudden, from being able to see the entire room, it cuts to a very low perspective of you being chased, and it's just like, oh fuck me, I'm gonna die.
No.
But I'd recommend it. I mean, to this day, it is the best story in a game. It's so good, and it affects you. Like, afterwards, you think about it, and the multiple endings on it as well have their own effect. There's no good ending. There kind of is, I guess, but fuck. But yeah, sorry.
But yeah, it'll be one of those ones where it'll be an ending, but it's sort of not a satisfying ending. It'll be like an ending in the same way there's an ending to 7. It's not one that is comforting. Or like, you know, it's gonna be the Scooby-Doo ending at the end of Wayne's World. It's not that. It's gonna be just very much.
I was Bishop Brennan mouthing it like when I first played it. Not even joking. Oh. You okay there, Matthew?
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is the Pope. This is Father Bishop Brennan. Oh. He did kick me up the
He did send me to Silent Hill. No,
he did.
But yeah, you're number 2.
Oh, that's how you do. That's how you good. My next one was going to be. It's a more recent one. Little Nightmares.
I've only seen a Let's Play of that, and it wasn't all the way through.
So, Little Nightmares. It's weird. You start off as this little. Not to give much away. You're this little kid. Apparently no bottom half of clothes on. You're just wearing like a yellow rain slicker. You look a little bit like Pyramid Head to a certain extent. You never see the child's face, but they're quite small and they're just running about. And clearly everything is considerably bigger than you. So it's daunting in that way. But it kind of plays out like a bit like, have you ever seen the City of Invisible Children? I think it's a Jean-Pierre Jeunet movie with like Ron Perlman, and I think it's got Audrey Tautou in it. But basically it's got this sort of, it's got this weird sort of view to it, this weird sort of aesthetic where it's real but it's not real. But like they've got, it's a bit like Brazil. That's the best way I can kind of describe it. It's a bit like a messed up Terry Gilliam movie.
Nice.
So, and it seems like you're the protagonist and you're trying to escape because you've been locked away, and it's very much sort of you're a side-scrolling one. You don't know the character's name. You get nothing about them. It just alludes to different aspects of it, and you find these little mushroom people, and these people are considerably bigger than you, and it's very. It's about exploration. It's about use of light and color, and it's just got this very tactile, off-putting. And then what you find out later on is that you're on a ship, a giant ship, just filled with people who are on this kind of messed up cruise. And I think it's almost like the levels of hell the more that I think about it. But it was very off-putting and very effective and very, very well done. And they've done a sequel to it, but it's a 2-player one. So you've got to kind of assist each other. But yet very, very well done, very kind of affecting, and I still think about it, and nobody speaks. There's not a single word uttered in it. And there's like a character who's clearly just like Freddy Krueger, to the point where he wears the hat and he's got the stripy jumper and he's got these horrible long arms.
Oh, cool.
But he's blind and he's just feeling for you, so you can see where he's trying to tap at you. You're hiding away in a bookcase. It's not as bad as say Outlast, etc. It's one of those ones where there's loads of bits and pieces kind of going on, but it's so well done that I wanted to play it immediately. And it turns out this kind of like there's a narrative change where, not to ruin anything, you believe that you're the protagonist of the story and you've been locked up, but then later on it kind of alludes to something else. But it's so well done. I would recommend anybody who is into horror to play it. Loads and loads of fun, but also very, very unnerving and very creepy, so I really enjoyed it for that. But it tells you that you get new ammunition, there's no weapons, it's more about exploration and sort of like it's almost like a platformer, but like a thinking person's platformer.
Nice.
So what about yourself? What would be your next one then?
I'll run again through this quickly because it's another franchise one to be boring. It is actually Resident Evil 2.
Nice.
And now I include both Resident Evil 2, the original and the remake, because I think with it being the same story, kind of, they bring different things to it. The first one, the main reason I enjoyed it, and again I'll hark back to, I like anything that makes me think like I'm playing a movie. Silent Hill's the only one that kind of goes against it a little bit. That in itself, I would kill for someone to make that as a movie, just purely that. But Resident Evil 2, when I first saw the opening cinematic to it, all of a sudden it was like I was playing a Romero zombie movie as a game.
Exactly, yeah. Because it was 2 discs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was class. But the sequel, which I'll go on about the most because I probably played that the most recently, has very famously Mr. X in it. And Mr. X, who's constantly pursuing you for the majority of the game, for me, is brilliant. It's so good because the more, and somebody actually did an experiment that if you stand completely still, Mr. X will eventually find you, but it takes him quite a while because you're making no noise. If you walk around, he'll find you a little bit quicker. If you run around, he'll find you almost immediately. If you fire your gun, he knows where you are. So he's got a brain on him, which is kind of awesome. But all I could think of at that point was if they did like a Friday the 13th or Halloween game like that, where you're being constantly pursued by Michael or Jason, that would be terrifying. And when you do finally get to fight Mr. X in that game, it's the most satisfying because you're like, yeah, you fucking bastard, get down. But he's just so unyielding as well, like he doesn't get affected. You shoot him in the face, he just keeps coming at you. In fact, you get an achievement for shooting his hat off. If you haven't got it, do it, it's amazing. But you've got lickers to attend to at the same time sometimes, which is great. So they're blind and will only pick up on audio cues, so you walk, they kind of half know where you're going. As you're walking briskly away from this giant that's fucking coming at you. It's so well done. The remake on it, I tend not to see the point of remasters, but with something like Resident Evil, the fixed camera was kind of novel at first. It wore very thin on replay. So the remake on it was just brilliant. I could have picked a lot of Resident Evils. Like I've recently got 8, which is amazing. I won't go into it at all because I don't want to ruin it. But I love
I've heard that's I've read the ending as to how it kind of gets explained. Yeah. But yeah, I've heard it's very, very good and follows on directly from, is it 7?
Yeah, with Ethan. I love Ethan. He's so cool. But the Lady D, I don't want to say the name because nobody actually knows how to pronounce it. Apparently everybody has an opinion on how to pronounce it, but nobody knows how to actually do it. So
it's pronounced Smith.
Lady Smith.
Lady Smith.
But yeah, Lady D has that very Mr. X mechanic in it, but it's from a first person perspective. And if she gets you, she will fuck you to death, by the way.
With her deep big claws.
Oh god, yeah. But yeah,
she could do it from across the room. She should be sitting in the chair smoking with one hand and just finger banging you from across the room with these horrible deep big claws, on her boy. Hey,
I'll find you.
Hey,
kill you.
Find you, so I'll buy.
Hey,
and this here castle boy, castle.
But no, Resident Evil 2, mostly because Claire Redfield, in my opinion, is probably the best character in it. She's just fucking great, and I love Leon. So part 4 was very popular with me as well. But go on, yeah, sorry.
Because I think because I was going to say, because both of the games unfold differently, don't they? Because they're both on different sides of the explosion, so you get to replay the game entirely again, but from a different perspective. And I think what was really good about that as well, and I don't know whether it was intentional, was there was very few games where you get to play as a female lead.
Yeah.
And I think that very much that give you, right, I'm going to play it from this perspective and I get to be the female lead in the game. And she's badass. It's not as if she's any less than the other person. You're playing at a deficit or whatever. It's not. And then the sequel, is it Nemesis, which is 3 technically, I suppose.
Yeah.
So Nemesis, you're somebody else.
Oh, you're Jill from the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're Jill and you start off with a machine gun and you're going up against the Nemesis, which is... It's a game that was a different one, and I think they do that with a lot of Japanese games, where they like to have you as playing as the female lead.
3 was
not to be.
Oh, it was so good because, as you say, on the third one, when I opened my inventory up and realised that I've got a machine gun, I thought this is gonna be easy. Then Nemesis appeared.
No,
fucking. And I would have had Nemesis on here had the remake been longer, because the remake was good. It was great, even. But you can do it in about I think you get an achievement for doing it in an hour. And that's very irritating to me.
Oh yeah, obviously. But the thing is, if it was enjoyable, it's better that it's short and enjoyable rather than long. And they're like, you kind of tacked some extra stuff on there.
Well, they cut out one of the major points, because in part 3 you even go to a clock tower. That's not in it at all, which is kind of annoying.
Because is it Carlos?
Yeah, the other guy.
Carlo or whatever, he's in that one. I think he ends up being in the movies as well. But yeah, I've played the originals but not the remakes on my, and I hate to kind of say this out loud, my chipped PlayStation that I had at the time. Some fell up the road and Murphy had he chipped my PlayStation and I got Metal Gear Solid on, is it 2 or possibly 3 discs it came on?
2.
You used to have to pay I think you had to put a £5 in per one for each disc, and then it cost like 12 or 15 quid to have the PlayStation shipped initially. But yeah, I had loads of those ones. But yeah, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, or Resident Evil Nemesis. I had Metal Gear Solid. I had Thrill Kill.
Oh, nice.
Which was a brutal, like, oh right, you think Mortal Kombat?
No, Thrill Kill. I got banned.
You get to play as like, yeah, which is why I wanted to play it. Did you not play like a S&M game with stilts for arms and legs because you were only like 2 foot tall? Yeah. And some of the kills in that were just absolutely brutal. There was a guy who didn't use his arms because he was in a straitjacket. It got banned, which made me want to play it even more.
Because you were a bunch of serial killers out, weren't you, in a fighting pit or something? But yeah.
Which was that was horrific. But, I mean, the next one,
that's all I really want to go into. I mean, the bit on Resident Evil 2, the remake, that sold me was the animation is so beautiful on it, like unbelievably good. Because the second one, it's of its time. Back then it looked great, and the opening cinematic on it again. That's just what got me sold. Because I played the first one very briefly. I saw my friend play it. The first one I actually got was part 2. I think it's arguably leaps and bounds better than the first one, to be fair, which is fine. It's a good game and I have played it. It's just the acting.
It's because obviously it was ported from being Japanese, obviously being in sort of like putting in an American audience, obviously, so it doesn't translate as well.
Don't open that
and it's door. Like I would have preferred you had played the game with Japanese audio but with English subtitles. I think it would have been better because that kind of diminishes it. I hate watching. I watched The Killer, which is directed by John Woo, and I watched the movie dubbed, and I wouldn't watch a movie dubbed again unless it's Kung Pao.
Oh yeah, which is great.
So Silent Hill, Resident Evil 2, etc.
Your number one then?
So I've kind of got 2. One I wanted to put as an honourable mention, and I think it's possibly one that you and I could discuss at great length, possibly in its own episode. So one of them was Prey.
Nice.
Not to be confused with the one I believe that came out maybe for the Xbox or the Xbox 360, which was like a Native American gets abducted by aliens, and there was these amazing sort of shifts in perspective where you being larger and smaller, which was very, very clever, by the way. But the more recent one, which I believe was made by Bethesda. Yeah. So the guys that made Skyrim, Morrowind, all those sort of huge, big, massive Faz-Ruda type games were like, and it had some of the RPG tropes that you would get because you can level up, etc. But it had this phenomenal horror. Have you played it yourself?
Yeah. It took me a while to get through it. It was hard.
Because it's one of those ones where you're in space, you're clearly, for the most part, alone through this entire experience. And it fucks with you in a way that sort of you open up and you think, I wake up with this amazing flat, I'm going to go through some stairs, go onto the roof, I'm going to get launched into space, as you do. Like you're getting on a fucking bus or getting an Uber or a taxi or getting, it just kind of threw me, and then you find out sort of shift, fast forward, or sort of skip it, and you're going, it's sort of, which way is up is the best way I could describe it. And you're in space, trapped in darkness and silence, and anything in the game can be one of these aliens because they can shape shift, and they've gone, we need you to go and get this pass that's on a table, and then you can go to the next one. And basically the entire spaceship is open to you, provided you can get certain things in order to get there. So you could basically go to anywhere, which includes flying outside in space with like a limited oxygen and a bunch of other stuff, and you've got tons of side missions. What was terrifying was you could go into your room, you've got to go get this yellow pass or a blue pass or whatever it is to get into this section of the spaceship or the shuttle or whatever the fuck it is that you've got to do, and anything could turn into one of these aliens. And it's like a little 4-legged shadow creature, and they're relentless, and you've got limited health and ammunition and everything else. It's fucking terrifying. It scared the shit out of me.
You'd literally go in and start whacking everything. Like, that's what I end up doing.
I'm gonna just smashing someone's face or something in, just in case it was one of those things. And it was very clever with that respect, but it just made you think, like, what is going on? What is one of these things? And it's not like the Thing movie where it could be anybody, could be one of these things. It's any object in a room. A chair chair might suddenly shake, or like you might go and chase one of these things down, and it's a chair.
And you've got
There's 2 chairs in the room. Which chair is the alien?
Yeah.
And which chair is just a fucking chair?
You have to really pay attention
what's
to
going
your
on?
surroundings as well, because if you chase one of them out of the room, which I noticed, it would then transform into something. So if you noticed on a table there was 3 cups, there's suddenly 4. It was clever, that. I love that sort of shit.
But yeah, it was very, very clever in that respect. And then you get other ones which are then bigger and they can do more and more stuff. But you also augment yourself, so you can become a cup.
Yeah.
In order to get through like an entryway. But I thought it was very, very clever in that regard. But anything could be one of these aliens, and it just shut me up. I love playing it, and the ending to the game is very, very good as well. And it sort of plays on the idea that if you augment yourself in order to hunt or go after these aliens, you become less and less kind of human. So you become the thing that you're kind of trying to hunt. You're the prey, and it's just so well done, and the narrative is fantastic as well. But just, I don't think I could do that to myself again. I think I played it through once, and it was really good. I could probably play it again now because it's been a few years since I had a go. It was just terrifying. Just walking into your room, it was quite, for the most part, from what I remember, very brightly lit as well.
Oh yeah, I don't think there was much shadow at all, actually.
It was very much your fully lit room. Anything in that room could be one of these things, and it's just like, why would I do that myself? and that was it. I didn't want to get into it too much. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. It was just the whole idea, this sort of dynamic that anything could be one of these fucking horrible shadow monsters.
Damn. Nice. Nice.
What about yourself?
Yeah, my number one then is one that you've probably heard me go on and on about, and I would highly recommend it because it's probably my favourite game, let alone favourite horror game, is Alien Isolation. And
I thought this might come up.
with you talking about aliens before, I didn't want to go into this so much, and when you mentioned there that what's scary about losing progress, this is exactly the thing. If you didn't save recently, you've lost that entire, like you will go back to when you last saved. Like there's no auto save, nothing like that. So the basic premise of that is you're playing as Amanda Ripley, which is the daughter of Ripley, Ellen Ripley, looking for the mother. You end up on a very, very similar ship to the Nostromo called Sevastopol, and you're just set free. You can go anywhere, again, a bit like Prey, anywhere on the ship, provided you've got the key to get there or the tools, and you're relentlessly hunted by this alien that, if I'm not mistaken, was programmed to have technically 2 brains. One of the brains knows where you are at all times, and the other brain is trying to find you, and they're constantly at odds with each other. So the more noise you make, the more in line they are, so they'll come straight for you. And the less stealthy, the more stealthy you are, the more at odds it is, but it's constantly around you. And you can't kill it. You can barely hurt it, even. You can kind of stave her off with a flamethrower, but on hard mode, which the game fucking recommended you play as, which I did on the first playthrough, which was a bloody mistake, it learns. So if you hide under desks, it'll start looking under desks more. If you hide in lockers, it'll start opening lockers more. If you use a flamethrower, it'll jump over your fucking flamethrower, which I crapped my arse off when it did it originally. But the thing with the Xenomorph is it looks beautiful. It's like playing the first movie. And not to put too fine a point on it, the downloadable content for it is actually the end of the first movie. You play as Ellen Ripley trying to blow up the Nostromo. All the voice actors are there because they were all alive at the time it was being made. Apart from John Hurt, he was still alive, but obviously John Hurt was the father of the alien.
Yeah, so he wouldn't be able to provide his voice because he's the one that he gives birth.
Yeah, literally.
Henceforth, the shiny silver-toothed demon from outer space, which it is his entire fault. I would say he's the villain of the movie.
Well, yeah, he shouldn't have stuffed his face.
What's in this here? Come on there, it's just gonna have a look. Oh my god, it's moving, isn't it? It's beautiful. I'm Richard. I'm David Attenborough. Oh god, it's put a thing down me throat.
No, I'm Preggers.
Preggers didn't even buy me a drink.
But one of the best bits in the game, I'm not really spoiling it, is you do end up playing a flashback from another character who discovered the derelict from the first movie, and exploring the derelict was the coolest thing. But exploring the derelict in the environment that Alien was, so it's very hostile. You're in a spacesuit, you've got dust hitting your face constantly and it needs to be wiped. You've got, you're following a Geiger counter and that's the only way you can navigate to it. Fuck. It's class. It's basically like a cutscene that you play through or walk through, but because it just puts you straight in the movie, it was beautiful, and you get a look at the guy in the middle of the derelict with the alien-looking creature, and you go down into where John Hurt also gets knackered into the nest.
Gets up the duff.
But apparently, what they did want to do, and I don't know if you'll ever play the game, so if you want me to give you a couple of little end bits here. But I would suggest it's my favourite game. Like, it's so good. But they wanted to put a queen in it, and end up sadly not doing that. And I can't imagine if they ever did a sequel, which it's been too long now. I doubt they will. A queen would just be the scariest thing in the world. But they are facehuggers, and fucking hell, if you miss a facehugger, it's game over. Because you're very limited. If the flamethrower might burn them, if you shoot over the facehugger, you get one chance. If you miss, you're dead. Because it hits you. It's not like the Alien 3 game where you spit it back out or whatever. No, you're dead.
Because I was going to say, would that not be the point? I would go down the route that's artistic direction. Like, if you can't fuck up, like, basically what is a drone to a certain extent, like a worker alien, or like a sentry one, like, how are you supposed to then, if that's the entry level, apart from maybe a facehugger, like, how you then, like, that makes the idea of the queen even more terrifying. Like, if you can't beat the pawn, how are you supposed to beat the queen? Which is terrifying.
You just can't.
It's just terrifying. But I think that's possibly artistic direction.
Oh and it's very environmentally weirdly, because you're in space as well, environmentally claustrophobic, because the amount of space you can move in without making noise as well, with what's known as the Working Joe robots in it, which are like a step down from Ash model robots. So they look a lot more robotic. They look like Michael Myers. They're creepy. They're sort of going haywire for whatever reason as well. Some of them, and you've got to kind of figure out which ones are and which ones aren't. And if you hurt the ones that aren't, all of a sudden they will turn on you. So it's just like, oh man. And you've got to do all that while an alien is relentlessly pursuing you, and survivors will shoot you to death as well. Now the survivors as well can also make noise, which brings the alien. So if you're running away from a survivor, fucking. So what you can end up doing is, what I did, because I'm a little psychopath apparently, is I'll whack a wall next to a survivor that didn't know I was hiding near them, and just watch the alien kill the survivors. It's like, but how you play it, it's up to you. It's basically a sandbox, and it's so good. Story's brilliant, voice acting's top notch. Amanda Ripley's a great character, and she's modelled on Sigourney Weaver, and I think Sigourney Weaver's mum, which she was in the movie Aliens as well, because the movie Aliens.
Yes, because I forget, because the one that plays her daughter is actually Sigourney Weaver's mother. Because he said it was. Is it Amanda Ripley is the original Ripley, isn't it?
The daughter. So Ellen Ripley's movie Ripley.
Oh, Ellen. I thought you said Helen beforehand. Going, who the fuck's that?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like a sister, Ellen Ripley, yeah. But but that's very, very sort of clever as to how they've done that. I think it's because I've seen it and I watched it because they did a release trailer with some sort of gaming website, and it says, all right, we'll let you play the game.
Yeah.
We'll let you play for 20 minutes, half an hour. However, you need to play it with the headphones and in total darkness.
Yeah.
That's the only, and it says we need to be able to allow to film your reaction playing the game, and watching it via them, like vicariously, it just going like, nah.
Yeah.
I don't think my nerves could take that. Like, if I can't deal with Dead Space, if something I can get through it because I've got weapons and shit and I can kill things. Alien Isolation, no, I can't.
Do you know what it is? I can't go back to play Dead Space because Alien Isolation is no joke, because I love Dead Space, because Alien Isolation ruined it. It is that much better. It's ridiculous. But I get it though. It's one of those that is just it gets your heart going. If you play with headphones, by the way, and the developers didn't tell you this, and you make noise, the alien hears you. So if you jump or you make
they'll
a
be
noise,
through like the microphone in the headset picks up,
which is brilliant. If you've got which I do, the camera. If you've got the camera, you can lean, and the character leans as well.
Oh, nice.
I turned that off because I thought maybe a bit temperamental if all of a sudden like I had a seizure or something. But the alien, like I had to play it because I wanted the full experience, so I didn't turn the mic off because you can do that if you really wanted to. I played it on hard mode where it learns, and I wanted to do a playthrough or a let's play on nightmare mode because God knows what that's going to be like honestly. But yeah, I won't ruin it anymore. I could talk about this forever because it is my favourite game of all time.
That's good. That's a good sort of. I might give it a go. I might just play it amidst the summer. I'll have people sitting next to me for emotional support, just holding like putting a gentle hand on my knee, just going. It's just a game. It's just a game.
If they say that, they've just killed you in the game because it picks up background noise.
Maybe they're just going to mouth the words very silently.
Text it.
Or that might maybe send me more with me as a result of it. But yeah, I will at some point do it. Yeah. And just sort of like just keep on telling myself it's not real. We're playing a game, but this alien's going to come and fucking kill me, and it no doubt will. But yeah, I think that was what put me off. Yeah. Because there's a scene in Resident Evil 7 that a friend of mine, I think he was playing it with a headset on. I think you could do it on VR possibly.
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah. So I think he was doing it with VR, paid the extra money to play it on VR, and he walks into your room. It's like a spider web covered in like baby legs and arms and stuff like that. And I think he just went nope. And I think he immediately took it to the shop and sold it because he just went, I'm not good. Fuck that. Done. I'm not going any further. I am out. Bye bye. No. Good day to you, sir.
But yeah, I mean that's my list complete. Did you have any others or?
My notable mention, and I would say that it is horror. You possibly agree with me. Is Senua.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Senua. Was it Hellblade? Senua's. Is it Senua's Saga or Senua's Sacrifice? I think it's called.
Senua's Sacrifice. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a hugely affecting game because it's all about mental health. Yeah. And Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. So it's a 4-year-old game now. It is so cinematic, and it's one of those ones. It gives you nothing. It tells you nothing. It doesn't tell you how to play the game. Yeah. It doesn't get. There's no tutorial. There's no hints. There's no tips. And the whole way through it, I think I played it with headphones.
Nice. You've got to. It's so good. Yeah.
Because the whole way through it, you hear voices in your head, and obviously you're playing as the character. Is it taking you down the right path? Check down the street.
Yeah.
Check down this path. And you don't know whether it's telling you the right information or it's telling you the wrong information. And it's like there's a term for it. It's the something narrator, the unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is the voices in your head telling you the right thing, is it telling you the wrong thing? There's not a huge amount of combat in it.
Yeah.
And you can play it quite easily once you know what you're doing, but it's still, I find it really terrifying and incredibly affecting, and it's possibly the game that has stuck with me the most.
Oh god, yeah.
Because it's the horror of the real, and about this Senua coming to terms with an apparent loss.
Yeah.
But it's so cinematic and so affecting and so real, and
in fact,
like they've clearly done it with like what's it called?
Motion capture on the
motion
face.
Capture,
yeah.
And the face and everything else is so intimate.
Yeah.
And they've then interspersed that with like real world footage where it's an actor's face rather than just the motion capture.
Yeah. In fact, the one piece of instruction it gives you is a lie as well, which is quite horrible, because I think when you mentioned earlier about permadeath, it tells you that if you die a number of times in this game, you'll have to restart the game. And for a while that was the belief, and when I got it was quite new, so I was playing that game on eggshells, trying my hardest not to die, because I thought if I die more and more, you'll see the black go up her arm. As soon as it reaches her brain, she's dead. You've got to start the game again. Apparently it never reaches her brain, no matter how many times you die. So they're fucked with you, the bastards.
But that's what's so incredibly clever about it. But yeah, I would suggest anybody, even if they're not into video games, to play that game because it's very cerebral. There's some puzzles and bits and pieces in it, but it's very much about this Senwa story.
Yeah. It's honestly
which is kind of based on
important game, and it's odd to say about a game, but I think it is because it's a beautiful portrayal of mental illness, and it's set in Norse time. Though, isn't it?
I think she's a Pict. So I think she's a Pict, and she's decided she's going to go into. I think it's almost like the Highlands.
Yeah.
But it's obviously like Norse mythology, like Svalheim and Midgard and all these other bits and pieces. But it's so well done with kind of like the voice acting is top notch, and they're making a sequel as well. But I've never played a game till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. For years, like almost like a decade. Like it was just one of those ones that I couldn't put it down, but it was terrifying as in like what's going to happen next, what other shit does she have to go through. But it's about not allowing somebody's issues define them and overcoming them or learning to live with them to a certain extent.
The end was so satisfying as well.
Like, it was beautiful and so well done, but horrific as well.
I'm dying to know how they continue it, because to me that was so tightly knit that it would have been perfect as a standalone. So I just want to know where they're going to go with it. And the trailer to part 2 looks amazing, like so good.
Whilst giving nothing away.
And
like the lighting and everything else that's in it, the soundtrack, the audio, the voice acting, it's just absolutely phenomenal. So and anybody who's listening in, please take the time to play it. It's important.
It is. But yeah, I mean that's our list.
That was
yeah. Thank everyone for I was going to say watching. I'm used to it. Thank you very much for listening to our beautiful podcast today. I've been Matthew Hutton of Podcast in the Backseat.
I've been Wayne Alexander of Podcast in the Backseat. Enjoy your stomach pounder and Coke.
Be seeing you.
Bye.
Mom, can I have a stomach pounder and a Coke?